Hello and welcome to the Beth of Fresh Air. Beth Martin's here. It's May 15, 2026. And I have the immense pleasure of hosting Dawn Lester today after meeting her in person at Confluence. Got very inspired by our meeting and that whole conference there. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with Dawn, but I'll quickly introduce her as a writer, researcher, champion of the no virus movement, if you want to call it that. And I've noticed that she's also amazing at building community and really being part of it, making huge, extraordinary efforts around that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Dawn on. Come and say hello in the chat, you guys. Hello and welcome, Dawn.
Hi, Beth, and thank you for inviting me. Yeah, really. And it was so good to meet you in person at Confluence, which I know we're going to be talking a lot about, that whole idea. So, but thank you for your kind words. I appreciate them.
You're welcome. Yeah. It's interesting when you go to events, there's always the, like I'll use program in a different word. Like there's the program, meaning the event, speakers and different events going on within the event. And then there's always the event under the event, which is often what I'm taking in at another level and paying attention to. And so one of my fascinations is around, you and I think, are both connectors, archetypally, just really wanting to build community. And this has been a big subject since 2020, when people realized, like, oh, wow, we're isolating and we're isolating ourselves. And then the powers that shouldn't be are wanting us to isolate even more so. That created a big surge of people coming together, which is a fun kind of, counter move that the community's made. And then so there was a lot of different things that occurred in terms of groups coming together, and then a lot of conflict in groups, conflict between groups. All of these fractions and camps started busting out at different levels. And at the end of the day, Scott Perry said they're coming through Winnipeg possibly, and they want to do a concert here. And I'm like, that's great. I got a space for you, but I don't actually have the people anymore, right? I know a lot of people here, but, community has eroded over the course, or at least my community, I'll own that. They might still be happy together, which is good. But, so now I have to, I'm not have to, but if I really want to find my people, they're more out there than they are in here. So that really motivated me to talk to you about this subject that is very, very close to my heart, because honestly, human beings are not meant to be alone and isolated. And, we can't thrive that way. I'm very clear about that. And what I noticed, especially by comparing events, which I don't need to, like name any names or call anyone out or anything like that, because I have really no idea. But I do have a strong intuition when something is of an organic nature, meaning that it's coming together because of the internal will of each individual, compared to an engineered gathering where there might be some organic, interest and attendance to something, but the feeling of it is that it's really, what other word could I even say other than engineered? I don't know. But so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'll just say hello to a few people in the chat. Lots of House of Free Will members here, by the way, Dons. You're in good company. This Maya is here, and Quietly Content Bear, welcome. And Elise, I haven't seen you for so long. I was thinking to reach out and ask you how you're doing. So come and say hello after if you'd like. And definitely chime in with the chat today, because that's how these conversations get even more interesting to me, when we've got that input. But so where should we begin, Dawn?
One thing I can say, which just goes to show how interconnected we are, even, I mean, and I don't like the word movement community. It's a loose community. But I gave a talk, a presentation last weekend in Cambridge, and somebody introduced herself to me and said she's part of the House of Free Will. She knows you. So
There you go.
Diane.
Diane? Oh, Diana.
Yes, Diana. Yes,
Diana, yes, yes, that's so fun because she was jumping on a meeting with me and said, "I'll be right
that's
there.
right.
I'm just saying goodbye to Lester, Don Lester, not Lester."
Yes, yes. So because she said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I've got a meeting." It was like, oh, okay, that's fine. But that was just incredible. There were, there were about 15, 16 people, something like that. I mean, certainly fewer than 20 in Cambridge, which is not exactly kind of where, I mean, it's less than an hour away. But it just goes to show that somewhere there are these connections, and there are more of us, and we're knowing of each other, even though we may not know that overtly. So that's just another example of how there are people out there, and we are connecting. But it is, as you say, with these, I don't like to think of these things as movements, as you say, because then even if they begin organically, we know they can be infiltrated when there's a movement, and then you get the kind of power type struggles. So, in some way, there's like a, some people refer to it as a freedom movement, but again, like you, I'm kind of careful with the words, and I like to look at words, what they actually mean and what we're told they mean, and how they're being corrupted as well. So because I mean, one of the things, when you're talking about converge, I was looking up the meaning of converge, and it's actually very similar to the meaning of confluence, which is about meeting and gathering and assembling. And it was Eileen McCusick who came up with the name Confluence, because she was saying, it feels organic, and it started really as quite a small event. And we've had 4, I say we, I mean, I've been to all of them. There have been 4, and they really have grown. It is organic. It is that there is, and I don't go to many festivals, so it's difficult, or many of these organized events, so it's difficult for me, although I'm slightly biased, because there's something about that event where it is a gathering of like minds and like-hearted people. So there is that organic aspect to it, and it's doing what we can to bring those kind of situations more into everyday life, as opposed to once a year we all gather, in Texas, or we all, it's just the occasional situation, where it's making it more, because as you say, the kind of 2020 stuff, we were isolated, and this technology was very useful because we wouldn't know each other without it. At the same time, it's now, let's do something in real life.
There you go.
As well.
Yeah, you got it. And speaking of real life gathering, conspiracy music guru, Mr. Alex, another House of Free Will member, is here. So he's all
Hi,
about
Alex.
he's all about the gathering. And another
Yes.
community that I'm part of, Jackie K, just came over from LYL. There was a live stream I just turned off to come on here. So it's pretty beautiful to watch how there's overlap in all kinds of areas, and not everybody necessarily gets along. Oh, Mr. William Bill is here reading Don's book, What Really Makes You Ill. Great book. Yes, I mean to recommend that to everybody, of course. If you have any question about what really makes you ill, that's shed a lot of light. And I actually do want to talk about that in a bit as well, that community. I was just going to say that I wanted to highlight how a lot, most everything starts as an organic movement. If you use our Canadian trucker convoy, what was it, 2022 or something like that, when people finally stood up and against the restrictions, and the truckers got behind it, and it became a national and even international, for lack of a better word, movement. Again, I don't know if we're sullying it with that, but there was this surge, and I remember when I recognized we were showing up to a few of these checkpoints, and I was podcasting it, and then just looking at who the people were. They were grandmas, and they were mums, and they were dads, and all the kids were there. And it was just astonishing to see how this is not, and you can't engineer that. They had to come of their own free will. It wasn't a narrative or propaganda that had them show up for their own freedom like that. And it was beautiful. But in 5 minutes, what happened was the powers that didn't like this organic movement moved in, took ownership of it, brought all of the attention onto themselves. Then the money's flowing and the money's not flowing because they stopped it, which may have well been good in the end anyway. God knows where that money was, and all the bank accounts get shut down, and then in the end, it's just, I don't want to put it down. It was extraordinary, but it really crumbled underneath all of that, which is exactly what they want that to do. And you saw new iterations of it. They tried to bring it forward again, but you could tell it was from the engineered side, not the people. And I couldn't get on board with that. So yeah, the organic stuff is vulnerable. And when I think about Confluence or the Convergence, it really is at a sweet spot of that organic nature. Like Alec was telling me, I'm sure he's said to many people, he didn't even announce the speakers, and it was 60% sold out already, right? That's how it was, the will of it. It's not, I'm coming to see this famous person and that famous person and get an autograph or a selfie like I always want. But it's like, yeah, and that was me. I was one of the first to put my hand up and just say, I want to go be with the people. And I had incredible experiences and gifts among that. I noticed this isn't really a movement, but we have a local music event called the Winnipeg Folk Festival. It is internationally acclaimed. People have come from all over the world. They've had incredible artists there, and it was organic. And it was for the people. And I kind of grew up there every year getting my bearings about what community could look like. And when you can just let kids run and roam and you don't have any sense or of that they're going to be molested, or, I would leave my things for 8 solid hours and I would come back and it was exactly where I left it, including my valuables and ID and money and everything. Right. And then the corporations started to roll in, and the communism really took over, and that it was all in cooperation with government. It's because they wanted the government money. They were lusting for that, and then the narrative around it starts just pumping high speed. And I'm literally allergic to that place. I couldn't go there anymore as it started to become more about filtering people so they would go through the beer tent and all this kind of, just a small example of the engineering. It took all the beauty out of it. So here's a question for you, John. Do you think that every organic movement or growth has a certain lifetime before it becomes engineered, or is it possible that it could continue like that?
Oh, that's a great question. Before I kind of get onto that, and just to go on the back of what you were saying about the the beginning, like the truckers thing, as I say, 2022, but the protests, I mean, there were quite a lot of protests in London, and I know they gathered, I didn't go to any, but that was personal choice for different reasons, not because I was like, didn't think it was important, but they don't achieve anything as such. What they did do was, like you said, that showed that there are a lot of people who were there. It was an organic thing. People were there because they wanted to speak up. They wanted to have just be part of something. And so many of them were just astounded by the numbers that were there. And it did actually get a lot of people to connect with each other. And obviously that carried on. I mean, I think the first couple probably were more like that, and then later on, I don't think they were ever engineered as such. But as I say, I wasn't there, so I can't tell because I don't have that direct experience. But I know that the people who I know who have been to them said that the first couple were rather special, and then it slightly changed because I suppose then there was something else going on. And part of that, I suppose, really to be able to look at whether it's organic or not is whether everyone's got the same placards and they're printed and looking very corporate, shall we say. There's there's something that doesn't feel quite sort of natural.
Right, exactly where it needs to be homogenous, right? That everybody is on the same page and agreeing on the same slogans and yeah, in the midst of all right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, as you say, slogans, it's that people are then chanting the same slogans, and then that starts to sound like it's being controlled. Absolutely. Whether it is or not, I know there's, again, nuance with everything, because probably a lot of people are, really appreciative that they're with other people, so they may chant the same thing, but then that can become something that moves into being a slogan. Whether there's a natural life of anything, or whether there's always a chance. See, this is where I think anything that looks like a movement does stand a greater chance of being infiltrated, and the organic beginnings to be spoiled, or that can change, that can shift. And again, it's a question, if you like, size, when certain things get to a certain size, or whether there's I would say leaders, but again, like true leaders, as with Confluence, these are not people who are kind of doing this is mine, as it were. The people who are organising that event. So Alec and Molly certainly are two of them. They're the people that most people know, but there's also Mike and Lindsay, who are who work really hard in the background. They're the kind of core team, but they had lots of volunteers. But they're not kind of owning it as such. They know they're part of it. So I think that's maybe one of the aspects where things can get spoiled, where people want to own it and run it, and there's the particular way, it's got to be my way. I don't know. That just happens, but that's only part of it. That there are so many aspects that could be spoiled.
Yeah, that's something that we heard from Alec all weekend, where he would say, so many people are coming to thank me for this event. And he would just right away give it away back to Molly, back to Mike, back to, to run an event like that, it does require hundreds of people to make efforts, including the audience members to come and support that and everything like that. But yeah, that ownership, it can turn into it's easy when it's small, because then it's, there's a humility about it. And so it's a challenge to any leader, that as something starts to grow organically and it gets traction, that do they then develop an ego identity of it? And like you said, it's mine, and now I'm going to protect it, and there's more at stake. Therefore, I want a bigger piece of the pie or puzzle or whatever it is. Puzzle's the wrong word. And one of the things that was so amazing, just a little observation that I think speaks volumes, is I interviewed Future Man the other day. Maybe you heard about that, and
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you must.
Yes, I will. I will.
This was mind-blowing. Honestly, one of the best, if not the best, interviews I've ever done in terms of the depth, just like staggering. Well, one of the questions I asked him was, how did you end up at a truther conference? Because according to anything that I see about him online, it's all his music and theory and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not seeing anything like, don't get a poison injection, or, like, which was our usual signs in this world. And so he didn't even know he was at a truther conference. He had no idea. That's how organic it actually was. It wasn't about slogans. It wasn't about this big message about, take down the government or anything like that, which is not what is happening at Confluence. And so I thought, how beautiful. He literally, that's as organic as it can get. Someone who was, I think, speaking there, I didn't even get the details very, very closely, but invited him to come and do some, I believe, drumming with them or something. Anyway, so he just decided, oh, my intuition's getting a ping, I'm going to go. And, he was saying, oh, it's like an influencers conference or something, which is not wrong either. But isn't that amazing that he just ended up in this place? And And then, he just happens to be exactly that kind of person who is going deeper and deeper and deeper into his own purpose, which is the truth. And then he's just surrounded by people who love and appreciate him, or, it was, that was so magical. I really loved.
Yes, I didn't know that. I mean, that, as you say, that just goes to show how people can be drawn in, or people can find what is right for them without following some kind of trend or whatever. And as you say, with it, it's like, what we call it, like you say, truth of conference. It's, I mean, to some extent, yes. At the same time, it is a gathering. So again, like the convergence, confluence, it is a gathering, a meeting, an assembly, and it's not about fighting the system. It's really to say, okay, well, this is where we are. What can we do? And that's one of the wonderful things that comes out of all these Confluence events is people connecting and developing different ways and different things. I mean, again, I'm not plugging Alex, the way forward, but it's one of the things that I've actually instigated in my area. In his the way forward app that he's on through the website. It's not the app, but the website. There's a members map, and you can find who's part of the way forward locally. And I thought, I'm a member of the way forward, so I thought, okay, I'll have a look and see if there's anybody in my area. And I discovered somebody had actually sent me a message, which because you have to log on to see the messages, you don't get them any other way. So I connected with her, and then I saw there were, I think, 5, and then the 5 other people. So there were 6 of us in a kind of, in this county, if you like, where I live. So I thought, okay, let's connect. So I connected with all of them, and I suppose initiated a WhatsApp group. And then since then, we've brought in other people who are like-minded, and even though they're not necessarily the way forward members, but again, it's because people want to connect in person with other people, and share ideas and different things, and just have that sense of, I can sit and have a chat with somebody and say anything, and it's not going to be a problem. So we've had a few meetings already, and I think there are now 15 of us. And so that's, exactly. And before that, I didn't know people locally. Not in that way. I mean, there had been a Stand in the Park group, which is something that they started over here in England, where people would get together right at the beginning and literally, as it says, stand in a local park and talk to each other in the early 2020 stuff. I did kind of connect with them, but they started moving in more of a moving into more of this kind of fear-mongering side of things. So again, it didn't feel like it was something for me.
Elise is
so sweet.
Yeah.
So it was really to, again, we at the moment it's fairly new, but there are a number of us. It's not always everybody who can get together, but we get together for lunch once a month at the moment, and we'll see where that develops. And we have different chats. So that's a practical example of the kinds of things that come out of what Alec is doing with the way forward. Now that's one example and one way of doing it, and it's not to say,
it looks like Dawn froze just for a minute. Hopefully her connection. Can you guys still hear me? If you want to let me know if that's my connection. I hope not. Someone in the chat could just say if you could hear me or not. That would be awesome. That would be more fun. I always say, I'll just follow up that, here's a good, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. And you hear me. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. I want to say hello also to, while I get a chance, Mojo Shop. Nice to see you. So great to have you. And Lisa's in Italy. So that's wonderful. Good for you to get to Italy. So good. Oh, and is she coming back? There we go.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
I think that was my internet. So
okay.
Apologies, but
No
these
no
things
worries at
happen
all.
sometimes. Yes, they
Yeah,
happen
exactly.
sometimes.
I was just going to respond to what you were saying about,
Yes.
that it's kind of a cliche that size doesn't matter. And when it comes to organic growth, this is very true, right? That the biggest outcomes, I think, can come. It doesn't need to be hundreds of people or thousands of people, which is part of how I think the controlled opposition influenced us, that it did need to be, all of us need to come together against the beast and the machine. And then that started creating all of this, like, oh, well, do I sacrifice my integrity and my truth to be part of this group? Okay. Like this, right? And so, and one of the other factors that comes in is, hello, JJ Hempcrete by the way, is that when you come together against an enemy, against danger, against an onslaught of control or worse, right? Like literally trying to murder and kill the people, then one of the things that can happen is people trauma bond. Like, I'm wounded, I'm afraid, I'm wounded, I'm afraid. Oh, we're a perfect match, right? How many people ended up with friends that way? And it's not it doesn't have longevity for the most part, because if one party of those two decides to heal and do that inner work, that they could come to a new place, then where's that relationship now? It often just kind of goes like this. Oh, you're not enraged like I am anymore. I don't know what to do with you. I'll go hang out with people that are enraged or sad or hopeless or all of that kind of thing. So it kind of narrows the path, which can be good. Is there anything that you wanted to say with that?
Oh, well, again, just the name controlled opposition, the fact that it can become controlled when it gets to a certain size. I possibly, if it's some kind of opposition, if there are leaders in the way that are obvious leaders, but again, sometimes the leaders of these movements can be can have been kind of placed there. They're not organic leaders. They can be plants, if you like, possibly. I don't know. And I'm not being all conspiracy theorist about this. It's just we know from the past of what the kinds of social engineering that's gone on in the past, and we know what can happen. So it's not to be afraid, but it's to be aware and to say, okay, we need to stay vigilant to make sure. And I think if it's something like Confluence, somebody was acting in a strange manner, the people there would say something to somebody and just say, that they'd sense it and they'd feel there's something going on there. But as you say, as for the trauma bonding, because that's the, it's the, oh, you feel like me. Oh, thank goodness it's not just me, so there is a relief in that at the beginning, because people can feel, well, is it just me? And that can be tough. So it can be a good thing if we've got somebody else who's going through the same thing, only when it stays stuck in we're going through the same thing. As you say, that trauma bond is then is the relationship, and that can lead to, as you say, all sorts of problems. One person is like, I don't feel comfortable with this, because obviously they're doing the work and they want to get through. But at the same time, realizing that relationships aren't always permanent necessarily. They can be part of our journey, and this is where your expertise on this. But hopefully I'm not saying anything that's too far out. That it's part of our own journey to understand the relationships with these people, and it's up to us to choose if we want to stay with them in that place, or if we say, no, this is not working for me, and it sounds selfish, but at the same time, it's our journey. So, it's learning how to recognize it's time to move on, maybe. And that can leave that other person in a difficult place, but it's not for us to stay with them to help them, because and to compromise our journey. And again, this is this balance of not being mean to other people at the same time, not being mean to ourselves, and recognizing what the relationship represents for us in our journey. That's how I see it. And I know I keep saying journey, it's because I'm not plagiarizing your book title. It's just because that is it is our journey through life. It's such a useful word. I mean, it's so pertinent. So each one of us has to be aware of those situations, and as we're working through all the stuff that's going on, because there's so much stuff, and sometimes it can feel really crazy, and it can be really good to have other people around you who feel that it's crazy, and so you don't feel isolated, because as you say, we're not supposed to be, really.
Yeah.
But it's whether you can have those uncomfortable conversations. Okay, well, it does feel uncomfortable, but do we want to stay here, or what can we do about it? What are you doing about, how can we help each other get through it and out the other side?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a kind of now what? Okay, we're both harmed in the same way, and we have the same feelings. Like you said, there's a warmth in that compared to feeling all alone, like you're the only one going through it. And what I notice with people that I work with, especially, is that say they're in a really close relationship. It can be with their child, their husband, their sister, their brother, and where there's a stepping away from that trauma, meaning healing. They literally get scared. Well, I'm going to lose my husband over it. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose all of this. And it's actually could be true. Right? That is because of free will. Everybody's got that choice. And when you heal, that's very polarizing to other people. And that means they're either going to love you more, or they're going to actually push you out, because they're not there. They're not ready for that. They don't want that. And, so there can be such a high cost to healing, what I call freedom, actually, like the real deal, not the word, which has no word. We just say that word, kind of placeholder. And it really does shift and change the relationships around you when you continue to grow on your journey. And it's so funny how after I wrote a book named Journey, I do have a weird ownership over that word, but never feel bad when other people use it. It's just like, oh, there's my word.
Well, yes, it's a great word. Yes. Well, I mean, that's basically what happened to me, that I recognized as part of what I was going through, was that I needed to make changes. I mean, this is back, it's like, oh, wow. Moving towards 30 years ago now, not quite that, but it's 25 years ago. And it was time for me to change something major, and it did mean changing my relationship with the man I was married to at the time, because we weren't growing in the same direction. Whether he was growing or not, I don't know, but it's definitely different directions. And so, and again, you're using the word lose, and I think a lot of people just say, oh, losing. Well, and that feels really difficult, because we don't want to lose something. So I'm wondering if there's a way of reframing that to say, well, let's find another word that says, okay, we're recognizing that it's time to take another step in a different direction, rather than lose. Because
Right.
that is, and I think that can keep us trapped. Because I know you look at language as well, but the language we use can keep us trapped.
Yeah, I have two minds about that. That like loss is loss. And there's a, say in the case, and I don't think this is what you're talking about, just for the sake of the discussion, people can sometimes reframe loss as a way to deny the pain or the injury that's there, or to
Yes.
suppress it.
Okay.
Now the second part is that, like, there came a point where I decided there's no more breakups. Whether you're my friend or my boyfriend, there's no more breakups, because I've lived long enough now to see how all relationships kind of come around. They come around full, they come around half. They're, all my ex-boyfriends are now friends. And so I just, like, stop it with the breakup. That this is not reality, but not using it also to sugarcoat the pain is real, right? When someone decides they were your friend and then they don't want to see you anymore for whatever reason, you may never know. They probably don't even understand it at all. And so I'm a big proponent of not, just reframing in order to sugarcoat. But I don't think that's what you're.
Yeah, that's an incredibly important point. Yes, you're right. It's not to, and I mean in that sense, I did lose contact with all the people I knew before. That everything just, they all fell away. So to a certain extent, yes, I lost contact, and there is that loss. It's a question of whether we dwell in the loss, or whether we recognize it, feel it, and move on from it.
Exactly.
So not to deny feeling sad, because I mean, there was a friendship I had for 30 years and the contact just stopped.
I know.
And this is all before 2020. So it's nothing to do with what's been going on. So, it's not because of that. It was part of whatever it was I was moving through in my life. And, now, I mean, since 2020, I've sat and thought, I wonder how many of them would have stayed and supported me in what I don't mean supported me, but been supportive of what I was doing, or how many would have just, you're just some crazy conspiracy theorist, and I suspect a lot of them would have said the latter. I'm trying to think, sometimes I'd like to think that there were a few of them that might have hung around, but I don't know. I mean, I never will know, because the contact was lost quite a few years before 2020. But it was sad, and I suppose again with, because one of the things that if you like, the consequences of initiating a divorce from my husband was, or the man I was married to at the time, I mean, he's obviously not my husband, was being estranged from my son. So that wasn't easy. And I, even though I can talk about it now without bursting into a flood of tears, that was like 20 years ago. I shed buckets. I have shed buckets. It was not easy. Part of it was to say, well, do I sit and dwell in the pain, or do I find a way to keep going forward?
Exactly.
So this is where, I suppose for me, it's, loss. I try not to use the word loss, but at the same time, there is a loss, and it's what I do with my life, what I actually make of it. Do I stay in that and dwell in that and fall apart, or do I find a way of going forward?
Exactly. That's what I think a lot of people aren't aware of, that the pain of anything, whether it's loss or injury, any way that it comes about, actually holds enormous potential not to dwell in. Like you said, absolutely not to dwell in, because that becomes attachment, becomes identification, becomes like wallowing, could be virtue signaling. Look at me in pain, and does everybody still feel sorry for me? But to harness the energy, because when we get such big shocks to our system, as the loss of lifelong friends or relationships, anything like that, then I'll use a bad word, brings your shit up like nothing else does. And it shows you what was more in the unconscious, what you could go along to get along on a daily basis. But all of a sudden, the gaping wound is calling in a lot of awareness. And so, like Gurdjieff, for example, who we're studying a lot of these days, he would actually say that the injuries are, they instantly bring greater consciousness. Like, for example, I got stopped at the border. I was just doing a little run trying to get some goods from the border. And usually that's gone well. This time the guy didn't like me. I made an error, didn't do my math in advance. And then he sends me into the gulag, which it feels like the gulag now. And then, they ended up searching my truck and, like all this kind of stuff. And so I'm more calm now because I've been through this already, and I know they're not going to find anything. I did nothing wrong, and I just it was a little late on my math, but the whole system goes woof, like this, right? There's this, even though I didn't do anything wrong, and they're not really doing anything wrong either, just their jobs, which I can understand. Here was this energy, and then I was very aware of using it in that moment to be self-aware. It was like very heightened self-awareness, and it got me through without the secondary injury of the adrenaline and the anger, or that's where I go with it, and or the fear, whatever kind of flavors. And so it was kind of a beautiful example that I don't need to have again. But yeah, and then Jackie K is in the chat saying one door closes. This is another aspect that every end is a beginning. Future Man and I talked about the Fibonacci sequence and how it's always the end and the beginning are married. And this I found inside myself. It's very true, right? So in 2020, there was a huge loss of people from my world. And then there was a huge inflow of people into my world, which I couldn't have guaranteed. You actually can't go, oh, well, I'll face that loss because I know there's something good coming. It's not like that either. But
no, you have say you have to. What seems to happen is that we face the loss as it is and choose in the moment, and then whatever happens kind of comes in afterwards. It's because again, in my situation in 2001 was I didn't know the consequence, and I try not to play the would I have done something different if I'd have known the consequence, because first of all, there's no good, because that isn't what happened, and I don't know, because I only did what you do what you do in the moment, knowing or recognizing when it feels the right thing to do. So in your experience, as you say, at the border, I think these other people kind of pick up on your energy. So if they feel that you're either in fear or angry, they'll pick up on that, and then maybe that'll draw them into making your experience, should we say, more uncomfortable, maybe, for whatever reason. I don't know why that would be, but they recognize, because that's it. So many people who were able not to be approached or not to be sort of affected in the sort of 2020 were those who were holding themselves confidently, not arrogantly, but confidently, and doing whatever it is, and not being sort of interfered with by whatever, because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So, and I think that's a general thing. And whereas if you're very timid and you're looking around, people will pick up on that energy, as well as the whole signals that you're giving them, not just the energetic ones, but the real signals. So they're more likely to recognize that. I don't know what the psychology is with that, but it seems to me that people who are in fear were more likely to be challenged.
Right, exactly. We know that like attracts like. So
Mm.
when you express the classic example, when you're really afraid of a dog and the dog knows it, and then the dog overpowers you because of it, or if you're too timid with a dog, then it's like, oh, well, I'm the boss, turns out, the dog would say, right? And
That's the sort of thing I mean, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely part of it. And this was funny going through the border this time. I had no fear because I've been having a string of really good events. Or not events, but passings and crossings. And on the way home, the way home from Confluence, I mean, I managed to not go through any cameras, no facial recognition, no scans. Everybody just was agreeable. What else did I not have to do? All kinds of things but it's not a guarantee. Coming home from Confluence, we were in the very last leg, and we came through, and we have cameras that they want us to go through at the very end in customs and everything like that. And I always say, we don't want to do those cameras. They ask why. I say for personal health reasons. Could we just see an agent? We go up to the agent and say, the agent tells us, oh, thank God you're here. I'm going to lose my job to those machines. And, so all of that can go really well. And it may or may not, there's this idea. Yes, you should manage your fear. Yes, manage your aggression. Those will get you in more trouble than you can even think. I know from experience. But going through with the idea that, well, if I just have a good enough feelings, or I have high enough frequency, nothing wrong will happen to me. This is wrong knowledge.
That's not quite what I meant.
Right, which I'm not
Yeah,
saying you're
because
saying
I
that.
was going to say, all experience. I mean, again, that's part of the context of the workshop that I presented at Confluence, which is about our experiences being opportunities for growth. So when we get to a stage where things seem to be okay and ticking over, and we've managed certain things, and we've learned and we've grown through certain things, it's not just, oh, then it's plain sailing, because life will then present another opportunity to have another growth. And so there will be something else that presents itself. So it's not just a question of, oh, I've got this one now, I'm sorted. It's to be aware and to, again, not be blasé, but not be in fear, or to even, if you feel fear, to recognize that you actually are fearful, and to say, okay, there's something going on, and I can feel that fear, and not to feel that that's something wrong. It's just to recognize it, acknowledge it, and say, okay, if it's not the right time, that's something for me to have a look at and see what's behind that. What is that fear of? Is it that, what if you're going through airports or whatever, that you'll get pulled out or asked to, something or other that will happen, whatever it is. So, but being in fear, going through in fear, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, I've got to be careful, is going to give you an opportunity to have an experience that will show you where your fear is, and
Exactly.
decide, do I face it, or do I, crumble, or how do I deal with this? And they're all, it might sound trite to say, sort of learning opportunities. At the same time, they are, because this is how it works. We're learning. We're all learning. A lot of what's going on is showing us how we can take agency over our own lives, and what we feel we are happy to do. And if there's something we're not happy to do, to say, okay, well, there's something there for me to learn, and I'll do it this way, and then work out why I chose to do it that way, and what's behind that, and what was I afraid of, what do I think, and it could be the feeling like a victim, or there's something somewhere, like you say, with the different shadow aspects of us. Always an opportunity to learn more about ourselves,
Exactly.
and then have a different experience the next time. So it's not like, oh, I've got that sus plain sailing through the airport, being blasé at the same time, but to to be aware of the surroundings, you know, to be alert, but not hyper vigilant. So it's all, you know, interesting times. lots to learn of how we navigate through this life. You know,
Exactly.
what's going on.
Yeah, Jackie said another challenge, and that's what we're always going to invite in. There can be an internal message. I totally agree with you that it can go, "I'll only be okay if," or the other version is, "I won't be okay if." So, you know, I won't be okay if they force me to go through the scanner on my way out and pick me for special screening. And, you know, so if there's that kind of unconscious thing going on, then it's almost like an obligatory experience. Like you at that point, you're inviting that experience so that you can see you don't have that limitation. That okay, now you've been through it, you didn't die, you know, and you managed, you worked it out, and yeah. So whatever you're trying to prevent, ultimately, you can easily draw in. So just wanted to say hello to a few more folks.
Yeah, sure.
Miss Michelle, another House of Free Will member, is in the house, and we have Revered Wolf VIP. Nice to see you. Nice to have you here. Glad you're around. And Rick Bonner is in the house. He said it starts off with being present, one's neighbor in the park. Next thing, the new normal, the not so great terror. Not sure what the last part means, but yeah, that's to me what you're describing is the nature of organic growing in community. And so I would be curious. I don't know if you're open to talking about it. I haven't poked my head in so much, but I was around enough to see that, say, around, you know, your work, very profound, to show people that getting sick is not a result of a boogeyman microbe, right? Absolutely revolutionary. As Future Man was saying, like it's like shooting an arrow into the future that I suspect will have very long trajectory. And it's just really the beginnings of that now that humanity can even start beginning to think that. And even in our smaller pockets, though the word is getting out. And so this became a point of, now I'll explain it just from a personal perspective quickly, that I immediately saw through your eyes, through Dr. Kaufman's eyes, who I'd interviewed back then, and other people, and I saw, oh, this is a story. This is a theory. This is not the whole truth of it by any stretch. And I'd been through enough of my own health stuff to know that it didn't really work, even logically. And so I became an advocate for this. And when people would come on my chat and say, oh, another scariant is coming down the line, and I'm like, yeah, it's never been proven to exist, that you can't have a scariant of a thing that doesn't exist. And then it became for me, I'll just describe what happened, is it became a point of division, right? So when I'm out there and I'm listening to influencers, and there's talking about what was, just like the bioweapons and all of this kind of stuff that really depend on germ theory as a conspiracy theory, then I would separate from those people. I would like, oh, okay, those are not my beautiful people. Or I would even conclude they're controlled opposition because they're promoting this germ theory. It wasn't quite right on. Like I really had to catch myself. It took a while to realize I was part of this division. And do you think that now, sorry for calling it a movement, because I don't know what else to say.
No, that's fine.
What other word to call it? But how has that evolution of that gone for you, since you were right at the apex of its beginnings?
I totally understand what you mean, because I think at the beginning it was why aren't people getting it? I was like, oh, yeah. So there was a little bit of, I suppose, dismissiveness or disbelief, and I mean that carried on for a little while, and then like you thinking, hang on a minute, we're separating people. It's like, well, it's the us and them, which is falling into the divide and conquer strategy. I mean, that's I think it was about 3 years ago now. I wrote an article on divide and conquer, and just saying, come on, try not to do that. So it's and it's not always easy when people say, well, there's the people who've taken certain things and people who haven't taken certain things. Well, yes, there's something different. So, I mean, one of the things that you're familiar with Danny Katz, with her languaging, that she says, well, some of us did this and some of us did that. So it's always inclusive. So it's the sum of us rather than they and us, or there's some kind of separation. And I think I don't always do that. And as I was reminded of the other day, and thinking, no, that's something to do more, because it is falling into the trap of keeping separate and keeping these discussion arguments and these divisions and this separateness, because people say, oh, well, there's a bifurcation of humanity. There's going to be those who ascend and those who don't. Sorry, and for me that doesn't gel somehow. We are humanity. Now we have different ways of looking at things, and so if we stay in the anger of you've got to listen to this, because blah, 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 then that's off-putting for people who haven't even started looking, and it's like, no, that's too much. You can understand. It's like, I don't want to be part of that. Whereas if we stay open and say, well, this is what we're finding, this is what we're looking at, it's not that we're special, it's just we've looked into it. We've been looking into this for a long time. As I say, it's about 18 years since I've started looking at it. So it's just something I've become used to talking about and comfortable with these concepts. And there are some of us, I nearly fell into it. So some of us are still struggling with these concepts and say, well, what about? And so I do my best to be patient and share information and say, this is where we are. I don't engage in the sort of, dare I call them, debates sometimes that happen online, because we don't know who we're communicating with and whether that's a real person, what they're actually asking. Through as you kindly put my Substack up there, I write and I share how I feel, and share part of this aspect of it is not just there's no evidence and here's another one, there's no evidence. It's this is how we go forward by helping, because there are so many different ramifications of learning how the mainstream view is not supported by evidence. There are many ramifications, and it's not just on what might be the reason that you've got a sniffle or a cough or
right,
those kind of symptoms. There is so much more, and it reaches into so many aspects of our lives. And so that's why I'm quite passionate about it, sharing information without being too without getting on a soapbox, because I can kind of do that when I'm learning not to in that way. It's just because I get passionate, and then I'm not like proselytizing. It's like, oh, everyone's got to listen to me, but it's because it is so important, and it does reach into so many aspects. And one of the things I think is, or one of the areas, or one of the demographics, if you like, that it's so important is with children, because of how they're treated. And so for me, the way to change it is to inform people so they make informed decisions that change the way future generations are treated, looked after, brought up. And so that covers so many aspects, but it's also helping them not start life in fear, or start life in a in a situation where they've been, damaged in certain ways. I'm choosing my language, as you can tell.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think people know what I mean. Hopefully, people know what I mean.
Yes. So, like I was just at a time I was justifying to myself that more divisive approach, not what you're talking about. You're talking about being much more open and kind, but what I saw is that if enough people could drop the germ theory paradigm, then, or say if they didn't, they could have pandemicked us into the future indefinitely, and that's exactly what they've tried to do, right? Like and we got even this week's example of they keep trying to throw that at us, and it's not working. So that, I think, is definitely, at least in part, credit to the fact that people started questioning based on the work that you and others are putting out, and or they're like so numb they just can't care anymore. I think there's a lot of different social reasons why you go out, and about one in I don't know, 200 people are masking right now after this big, like, whoa, the danger is coming. So 1 in 200, that's not much of a response. That's not any kind of critical mass. That's not a movement. And so
it's still quite a few, but again, yeah, I was like, okay, but that is, it's the other way, because it was like 1 in 200 that weren't.
That's
in
right.
2020. So
Exactly.
that's a good sign. I'm still curious that they've decided to try and run this narrative again, with very close similarities to like the whole cruise ship thing. What that's all about is very interesting. So whether they're monitoring what people are doing, and I know with various people who've posted things on social media that they're highlighting the large number of laughing emojis that are being put on these mainstream articles. So that there's a growing awareness. I'm I don't want to be. I'm not cynical. I'm just curious why they're trying it again, what they think they're going to achieve. So I was kind of I don't take things at face value, and I'm just kind of it's like trying to discern what's going on rather than jumping in. Oh, it's this, or oh, it's not that, or trying to make kind of blanket statements at the beginning, which so many people dive in and do that. It's good that a lot of people are not falling for it and making it very clear that they're not.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm
Hey,
just
can I jump
curious.
in? Mhm. I was just going to jump in. First of all, like the effect of being dazed and confused is always what they're after. That people are compromised when they're dazed and confused. So thanks for that, Lewis. And here's what I'm just having a little revelation, that what is the difference between the organic and the engineered when it comes to community and movements. The mechanical, the engineered version of it is like a leviathan. It's like it's moving, but is it possible that they can't shut it down? It's got a certain, the wheels are turning, the mechanism is running, and they can't even just hit the off button on something like that. It's got too much of its own momentum, even though it doesn't work anymore.
Yes, I mean, I wonder if maybe they're sort of just putting it out to see what the response is, to see how many people are there, whether they're going to try the controlled opposition narrative of which is what you were referring to before, the lab leak kind of idea, and see if maybe they can gain, how many people are following that, because that's, again, there are a lot of, if you like, air quotes, big names in in that side of things. So that looks more like a something that's engineered, whereas those of us who are saying there's no evidence for this are not a kind of a specific group as such. There are a number of us saying things, so it's clearly not a movement, and I think it's good that it's not. And although there are some more prominent names and voices out there, or have been, and even they've been accused of being controlled opposition. I mean, there's a lot of nonsense being put out, suggesting that certain people who are sharing useful information are controlled, or they're this or they're that, and so there are efforts to discredit them, which I wonder why. So again, where that's coming from. And that would be the kind of strategy for people who want to kind of pull down something that's genuine and genuinely organic. So that's it, to try and discredit people. But I think there are enough of us now that it's obvious it's not a led movement. We are a disparate group of people saying something similar, and I think there are more and more of us, and fortunately some young guys as well, not just guys, but I mean, I'm just thinking of a few that who were there at Confluence, younger guys who are talking about all of this and sharing. So that's really encouraging, because it's not just but I don't know, it's not even an older person thing, but it goes across demographics, and so they're more likely to reach younger people because of their way of expressing themselves, their language. They can speak a similar language to like younger people, or the vernacular. I mean, I don't know it. I don't mix with too many people of that age. Apart from like Confluence, and I learn new words, and I was like, okay, not heard that one before. But it is to have fresh voices, fresh faces, new people joining in and sharing, and it just becomes it stays organic. And I think that's one of the things that we are. I suppose I think we are aware. And so we're careful to see what's going on, and we help each other out, share each other, support each other. If because sometimes people get attacked, and it can be pretty nasty, and then we help out and share, support each other. So it's, I suppose it is more of a community. It's not a movement.
Right.
But it's a community. So when it's again going back to that thing with the protests, and when they've got the kind of placards and they're all the same colour and they're all similar and they're saying the same thing and there are lots of them, it looks more organised. Whereas, but I know some people are critical of those who have larger platforms. But I know a lot of people have worked hard to get to that stage of having a large platform and lots of people. Lots of listeners. So why they're trying to pull them down.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to highlight what you're saying also, and this became also another buzzword in our worlds, if you can call it that, and it's decentralized, right? So
yes,
even if they want to take it out, if they go and they attack Andrew Kaufman, or they attack you, or Christine Massey, or Alec. Oh my God, that took me a long time to get him. You take one of them out, and then there's still all these other guys still going strong on the message, and so you really can't take it out. So that's one thing that is good. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about first. I'm going to check the chat, and then
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
come back with another question. But Ellie McBeal said, if there's momentum, then it would be easier for the group to be hijacked. So that's interesting too, right? That if there's some unnatural growth, would there be natural growth? And just, it's the word of mouth, and the one person tells the one person, and yeah, maybe channels can get a message out one to many at a time, working around censorship and everything like that. So yeah, momentum is exactly what's hijacked. And Quietly Content Bear said, I like to play the game, what if I'm the dupe here? That's a good one. It's a really good one, rather than thinking that other people are the dupes. Jennifer Pepler is over on Rumble. By the way, we are live on Rumble and YouTube and Fakebook, as I affectionately call it. She said she thought the cruise thing was to hide the bigger event going down with regards to the happy place. People take their kids and the whole Disney thing. Yeah. So I don't doubt that, actually. And yeah, predators will prey, eat or be eaten is that paradigm that it's in. And so I was curious. There was a very specific moment, and Alec is very regular with his messages like this, and you can see him cycling it through his social media. And you see, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but he is an obvious leader in this movement. He was on the Del Bigtree's show in a very important debate. Boy, did I have a lot of respect for his nervous system, being able to manage that. It's like any conversation probably would have been stressful, but that one in particular. And coming out the other side, and of course Del's like, yeah, I don't know, like he's just like, almost it was a big whatever. But
I'm not sure it was necessarily to, shall we say, convert Dell. It's more to share the message with his audience,
totally.
and
Oh, I get it.
hopefully to get
Yeah.
more people saying, "Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way."
Yeah.
And if
Yeah, I get it.
lots of people started doing that, great. He did his job, and I mean, he did a great job, and I know he was nervous, and it really is to get that fundamental point across, that there is no evidence, and that it is required, the scientific method, that the evidence isn't there, and it's not for us to say what is. It's just going to say, falsification doesn't require replacement, and to get those kind of messages out, so to get kind of just people starting to think, or even be able to question when somebody else says, well, but I heard, and actually, that makes sense. So to try and initiate those kinds of conversations.
Exactly. No, so here, I'll just finish what I was.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, it took me so long to say.
Oh, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut across, but it's just such
That's
a good
okay.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking in, I'm watching this as a kind of movement. And there was one point where Alec on his channel made an announcement. By the way, I am not associated with this guy and that guy and this guy. They have nothing to do with me or this message or anything like that. So you could see, how would you describe it? Was the no virus world infiltrated, and people tried to come forward and lead it? Like what was actually happening there?
I don't actually know. I think I remember that post, but I can't remember the people he was referring to. But I believe I saw that. So I think that part of it is discrediting him, or trying to say that he's supposed to do that, or also I mean, so many logical fallacies that start entering into these conversations, not even discussions, but conversations, or these comments that people make. And one of them is trying to associate, because he says this, then what about other things that he might have different opinions on? And it's not relevant whether whatever his opinions, I mean, I know some people have tried to say, oh, because he was at West Point, that means he's something or other, I said, well, not necessarily,
But this was specifically with the no virus world. Like he was very
Right.
clear because, with these other characters in the show, which I'm assuming they were characters based on Alec saying I'm dissociating, like I literally am not with them.
Right.
Then there was some kind of thing going on. There was conflict. I heard it from a few different little
Yes.
angles, and it was strong enough that there needed to be a message. Those people are not with us, kind of, is how I
Right.
heard it. So
Okay.
are there groups to look out for that are wearing the banner of there's the like virilology or something, or are there groups that
Oh, well,
are
the
compromised?
the virology, that's Mike Stone, who,
Okay,
I'm as far as I'm aware, he's not taken a contrary view. No, I think I know who you mean. It was the control studies people, I think. Um, that's because there were certain comments being made. I haven't see. I don't spend a lot of time kind of diving into a lot of these things and looking at
that's
it in
all right.
detail. I kind of get on with my thing, and I that's because I think there was some antagonism between different people, and there are some people have had arguments, because the no virus camp, whatever you want to call it, there's, you know, there are people, and humans, and they have human emotions, and they have certain ideas about certain things, and sometimes those ideas are not aligned, not very much aligned, and so they can start to verge off on a certain tangent. And I think that's what was happening. And there was some acrimony going on, and I think there's been some, I think, more ad homs going on, sort of personal attacks. And that's, I think, when it was time to say, no, this is not where we're going. This is not the way we're going to do things.
Right.
So I think it was that. But again, it is that kind of division at the same time. If you've got a group of people, and there are a few who are behaving badly, and spoiling things for everyone else, chances are within your gathering, if you're like one of the organizers, so you're part of it, you're going to say, no, sorry, you're not welcome here because you are spoiling it for everyone else. You are. So I think it was more that kind of thing, to say,
Right.
no, that's bad behavior, and I'm not associated, I'm not part of that, I'm not connected with that.
Okay, got it. Yeah, one of the archetypes that I coined back in the days I was really focused on controlled opposition is the well poisoners, and
Oh,
some of them might know they're doing that, and some of them might not know they're doing that at all. They just, like you said, there's human nature, and we have all of our feelings and our psychoses and our programs going on even in normal life. Never mind these days, so yeah, that those well poisoners can. I know I hosted a lot of them. They came and went through my groups. It always took time to see that people were there, literally causing trouble and making sure that there was division. So if things were running smoothly, this I saw more in the law arena than anywhere else, because I think there was more at stake there, and more of a threat. Although now I see the alternative law community so different than I did before, but yeah, lots of infiltration, and people just making petty trouble, not even not making sense, not convincing people or anything like that, just making sure that energy got siphoned off, and that the people who don't want conflict, who don't want anything to do with that, which is the vast majority of everybody, more or less, would just like not be there. That happened in the House of Free Will, where we had two people primarily going at each other, and creating a mile long of posts, and fundamentally disagreeing on reality, and but there was no synergy, there was no learning, there was no coming together to really combine forces with what were actually two great minds. And then there's people that they just start to pull away. It's like, oh, every time I come here, there's this conflict. Therefore, I don't want to be around, which I understand, but that's like a shame, right? So that's a little bit on my mind these days, also, to how to manage that. And I'm not anybody's mommy. I'm not going to slap you on the wrist and tell you what to do. But there comes a point where it's like, this is poisoning the well, not because you intend to, but that's what's actually happening. That's the reality of it. So that's just kind of an open question in my mind.
Well, yes, I mean that's a good point. It's
Oh,
whether they're doing it intentionally or not.
yeah, and see, Jackie K said, I left the group when they're
Yeah,
attacking each other. So, right, like
yes,
it's exactly right there. Yeah.
yes,
So it's
because
over
then
now, Jackie K. If you want to come back, it's over now, just so you know.
so again it puts people off. They don't want to engage because I mean I had that in the Telegram group as well. There are people, I think there were a few of them, and I just said stop, and because what they were discussing, it was well, again, ad homs, and it was really just going off topic, and they were just attacking each other, and yeah, totally. And I don't think they weren't there intentionally to spoil things in the Telegram group, but it just people were leaving because, well, that's not a conversation I want to be part of. I just, we don't like the energy, so we withdraw our energy, don't want to be part of that. So, and I think because I don't know. I'm not saying I know, but we are in strange times, and there's a lot of unsettling things going on, and a lot of people maybe don't know how to handle it, and maybe. So see, I'm doing this us and them, aren't I? So some of us may not quite have worked out how to grow up and deal with things in a certain way, and may be playing somewhat childish games, um, rather than sort of staying childlike. They're just being childish and throwing their toys out the pram. There could be all sorts of things, but I mean, who knows how many architects archetypes are playing out with all of this, and it's a question of how we want to engage with these people, these situations as well, and how we see that. And it is tempting to say, it's like, no, sorry, this is not the place for that. And there's, you think, well, you're entitled to. So, in your own home, you wouldn't welcome somebody who came in and started trashing the place. You say, no, leave. So there is a certain standard of behaviour, but it's not, like you say, kind of, I'm going to tell you what to do. It's a question of, okay, let's all be adult and talk about this. And if you've got problems, if you've got an issue with me, let's talk about it. Let's see, talk about it rationally. So it's, being an adult and seeing whether there's a way of having a conversation to find out what's going on. And yeah, sometimes it involves confrontation, and some of us don't like confrontation and the conflict and how to deal with that. And it's, these are again new situations, because we haven't been in this situation before where the world seems to be going quite crazy, and yet it is exciting because new things are coming through, new ideas, new ways of being, new ways of living, new ideas of what we can do. And it is exciting, and at the same time, can be unsettling.
Exactly. Yeah, there's this is the rebel in me speaking, that I notice people's conflict tolerance is very low. There was one thing, we were writing notices before Empower got going with its stuff, and we were working really closely, 3 and 4 of us, and then 2 of us started to bump heads. And of course, I'll claim that I had no desire to do that, but that there kept being this friction coming at me. So I'm going to respond. I'm not just going to sit back and pretend that's not happening. Well, the third person couldn't stand it and like flipped out, called us children, like took out her bat and started basically hitting us as a result. And it's like, well, we're just working through some issues. Is that okay with you? Apparently not, right? Like that it's such a strong allergy. And then we're like her kids that she used to abuse. Sorry to be so mean for that, but I could feel it, right? Like, it's like, hopefully the kids survive this. And so, yeah, I think a little more tolerance for friction would be wonderful, that there could be a difficult moment and it's not the end of the world. And it's because otherwise it can escalate. With the intolerance actually adds conflict to the situation. That's what people don't realize. But if you could just sit and be uncomfortable and just be uncomfortable, and that's all, without needing or wanting to do anything with it, that can go a really long way. And it will inform you, like, is this actually an injurious situation I need to remove myself from out of self-protection? Or is this a moment of growth, right? That I could grow, I could expand my awareness, I could come into greater understanding, not agreement, but understanding of the other person or people involved. Could we possibly still grow together as some miracle that tends not to happen otherwise? So friction is a given, and this is how we grow through friction. So there's my soapbox.
Yes, no, I totally agree, because hands up, I'm not one to kind of enjoy confrontation or conflict. At the same time, it's still, each situation will be different, so it's to understand what the situation is, what you can do, what you want to do, how you feel about it, and also in terms of who we are and how we are, is it up to us to tell other people what to do? Well, no. So how to interact? So again, these are opportunities, as you say, to learn and to grow, as to how we process that conflict and to understand what is going on, and how passionate we are about whatever the topic is that's being discussed, or the nature of the conflict, how important it is, because I'm sure so many people want to dive in and give their piece, whereas it may not be about you diving in, not you, but an individual diving in and saying their piece. It's not about saying their piece. It's about understanding what's going on. Exactly. And how it affects us, what it means to us. So it's each situation is sorry, I'm getting slightly off-putting, but there's so each situation will be unique, and so it's for us to choose what we do in each situation. But again, it is not to be not to avoid the conflict. At the same time, it's how to be in conflict in a way that is helpful to everyone, if you like, helpful to the situation rather than escalating it.
You got it. And I love your point, is that you have to take every situation on its own and have no policies that, where there's conflict, I run away. Where there's conflict, I get in and try to manage. Where there's conflict, I'm going to this and that. It doesn't work like that. It's a call to the inner work, to find yourself and see what's actually authentic for you and what's reality. This is another, like, on a bandwagon, because, you have this perspective, you have that idea, you have this framework, you got this paradigm, but there is a reality. I'm extremely sure of this, that there is something real happening, and we can get access to it, but not while we're running our paradigm and our theory and our ideas and our framework and our perspective. We're not going to get to the heart of what's actually happening, what's real, what is, like you're saying, where is the value here? Is this going to be a whole lot of energy for nothing on the other side because it's really not that important, or whatever it is? Or is this a gold mine to be able to spend the time and work through it? So yeah, that's why I'm a broken record on the inner work. So yeah, it's crazy challenges.
Yes, and that's it. Perfect point. That it's not to have a policy that I always do this when this. It'll be different. Hopefully, they'll be different, because you don't want to keep repeating the same thing, because that could be a bit boring. Except you go, well, okay, it's repeating, so I haven't learnt whatever it was from the other one. So
Exactly.
it's to recognize, okay, it's come back again. Can I do it differently? And can I see something? What can I gain from this?
Exactly.
Because I mean, and it won't be exactly the same, but you know what I mean. It's like, when you feel it's like, oh, here we go again, right? Okay, it's to try and step back instead of that immediate dive into the situation, and that's not always easy, because when something triggers us, it triggers us.
Well, you said it, Don. It's the mind is exactly saying, "Here we go again." Even though it's a new time, maybe new circumstances, new characters in the show, but your mind's going, "Here we go again." The same thing is happening, and this is what you create your policies from. That's where it becomes mechanical and robotic. Not you, but me, anybody, and that repetition. So those are the kind of things you can look out for, where there's an overlay on the situation that makes you mechanical, rather than work to feel the pain of the conflict. Like, conflict is pain. It's not. Nobody walks into that, like, the rebels can pretend to love it, but that's fake love. That's very painful love, if you're really honest with yourself, like loving conflict the way that they want to ruffle feathers and all. I know I have a long history of that, so I'm very familiar with that. And yeah, so that, to me, the inner work is where it's at. If we get to know ourselves, then I think we have a chance at getting along and actually building community. So
Yes, yeah, and the kind of community that goes to Confluence, as I say, I can't speak for too many other festivals. I haven't been to too many others, but I say festivals. I don't know what to call it, because it's not really. It's
I
not a
know.
festival or conference. It's a gathering. Yeah, so other gatherings. Yeah, that's probably a good word. It is somewhere where people are, aware, and we're. It feels like we're with other people, and you can talk about things, you can be, so people can be, and so there's less of the judgment, if any at all. But I mean, it's still human. So but generally there's sort of less of that judgment, so you don't feel you got to be careful what you say, or that kind of thing. But it's all part of how we grow and learn, and say, okay, this is a good way of interacting. People tend to sort themselves out, and so we'll stay as adults and work out what we need to work out. And so it's setting a good starting point of how we want to move into creating communities with the kind of people we want to live in community with, if you like. Because I
Indeed.
mean, that's the idea, is to I suppose, to be closer to, like you're saying, you haven't got that many where you live, to have that kind of local community where you've got people there around you, rather than scattered. Except at the same time, it's still good that they're scattered, because then they're setting the seeds. Everyone's setting the seeds where they live, so that's how it grows. Whereas if you're just in one place, also if everyone's in one place, of course, that can be much more easily infiltrated, and all sorts of things can happen. So again, it's better to be and at the same time, it's still good to come together. So it's getting that balance of both.
Yeah, that's great. It's often both and are the
Mm.
answers, as if there's one or the other. So yeah, no, it's a really good point. I remember I was at a concert, Grateful Dead concert in my childhood, and I was having this vision, and I noticed how this might sound dumb, but I noticed how vulnerable we were, because there we were in this, very tight gathering in a very recognizable, any plane going over would have seen this group of people, and like how easy it would be to take us out in one shot or something like that. And so yeah, in a way, it's good to be a little more like scattered seeds that will grow in a variety of different places, and then throw seeds down and create their own forest of goodness to grow and feed on. So yeah, it's good. No, and a huge shout out, by the way, to the people that I am related here. I know I made that sound like that it's a void. It's not. There are some very special local people that did. Some of those friendships came together exclusively around 2020. We were literally looking, okay, it's time to grow food, and who are we going to do that with, and where are we going to do it, and created some really beautiful relationships that have lasted into the moment. So it's amazing when anything does live through this pressure and tension that we're in right now. So, well, this has been beautiful, Dawn. I thoroughly enjoy. I don't know if you have time to go through a little bit more of the chat, and if there's anything else you wanted to share.
No, I'm fine for time. Yeah, that's
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, I know it's getting late there.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm not rushing off, that's for sure.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Make sure to visit Dawn at dawnlester.substack.com, where she writes a number of really interesting articles, and you host your podcast. And I think I'm going to be coming on. We're going to do a recording on Monday
We are indeed,
the
yes.
scheduling. Where do you
Yes.
mostly host your podcast? Is it on your Substack?
Yes,
That's where I've got it.
the video. Yes, the video version. The audio version, I post a link on Substack, but it's hosted on Spreaker because I'm part of the. Let's get this right. The I've blanked. Forbidden Knowledge News Network.
How do you spell Spreaker?
Well, it's like speaker with the R after the P. So
Spreaker, got it. Okay,
yeah.
that helps. Okay. Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so those links are, and also I share the video on my Odyssey channel, and I share around on Facebook. But I mean, Substack is where, the podcast, the audio, as I say, audio and video, and my articles.
Very good. Oh, no, it's just pulling up your Substack. It's funny how it won't find your Spreaker. It found you and an old 2020 interview with David Parker that we know, but it's not coming up. That's one last point to make about this also, and how censorship plays in to the whole thing, right? That, I couldn't be more explicit. Dawn Lester on Spreaker, and it's not finding you.
If you try Dawn of Discernment,
okay,
that should come up.
Okay, let me see. So now I want to blame censorship, and it might be just because I'm using the wrong.
No, I mean, it should. I suppose it should come up with my name, but maybe not, and maybe it hasn't kind of.
It looks like it might have found you, but there might be more than one of you there, because that doesn't look like you.
Ooh.
Or maybe it is. Yep. Did you do your last one? Is on the Dark Night of the Soul?
It is.
Okay, perfect. So I found you. Good.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the chat so everybody can go and check out the audio podcasts as well. And let me see if I could find your Odyssey. I'll have to know to search the name of your show instead of your full name.
On Odyssey, it is Dawn Lester, because I've got other videos on there as well. But it might come up with it on Odyssey as well.
It didn't actually. Yeah.
Or maybe Dawn Lester then.
Oh, look at this. There's no evidence linking Dawn Lester to Odyssey. That's what AI said, but it's hilarious. Whatever.
Well,
Okay. Well,
well, we know they make it up as they go along. So
yeah. No,
don't necessarily.
oh
Yeah.
man, I don't even, there will come a time where I don't get exacerbated anymore by that. And it's just like, whatever.
Well,
Can I tell a cute story from
it's.
yesterday, by the way?
Well, I was going to say you're human. You have emotions, so you're like exasperation. Oh, not again. It's whether you hang on to that or you just go "Bleh," and let it go and move on. But
Exactly. Yeah,
not
you got it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you're allowed to go "Ah," and move on.
That's it. That's it. So, funny story from yesterday. We
Yes.
had a very high winds are kind of normal in these days of strong geoengineering, unfortunately. And then yesterday it was a dust storm, which shouldn't happen in the spring because that's not exactly spring weather. And the sky was black, and I'm driving going like, what in the heck is happening out there? I know it's a very dusty time. They don't clean the streets, and cleaning the streets just means putting crap in the air. That's all they know how to do so far. And so I thought to go and search what's going on in Winnipeg. Where is this coming from? So I asked AI, why is the sky black in Winnipeg today? And it said, oh, the sky's not black, it's nighttime. And I'm like, no, dude, it's daytime and the sky is black. And it said, no, the sky's not black, it's blue. Like this. And I'm like, you are dumb as a bell. And then it took a couple of hours before Environment Canada actually announced there's a dust storm, even though like everybody can see it for 2 hours and stuff like that. So anyway, that's just a funny aside.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, the weather's doing some weird stuff. We had wonderful weather. Well, while I was away in Confluence, that's fine. And we had. Oh, thank you very much. We had a couple of really lovely days after I got back as well, and then it turned cold. And I think yesterday we had sunshine, hail, wind, rain. It was just crazy. It was just like all in one day. So, and it's definitely cooler than it ought to be for the middle of May here. Although it looks like it might be warming up, but again, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So again, that's something that. Yes, we can kind of go at it, and then, well, what do we do? And we just carry on with what we can do, and
Exactly. Yeah, I
do
just
as
mhm.
yeah.
I used it for spiritual work yesterday because it was catching so much of my attention that there's a dust storm, even though like the temperatures are warm, so you can't go outside. And then it kept irritating me, so I kept using it for that exact like, okay, observe myself, work with that. What program is that? Could I let that go? And by the end of the night, actually, it all worked in my favor because it made me constantly dig in and find that. So I'm just sharing a link to Dawn's
Thank you.
book, What Really Makes You Ill. This is an Amazon.com. I know there are lots of other places. Is there a place you prefer people to buy it compared to Amazon?
It's not a preference. It's where people can find it. It is available on some other online stores. I mean, obviously, it's Amazon.com is for the US. There's actually Amazon.ca as well. It's in Canada.
Right.
I think there's 15. There are 15 different Amazon stores. There's also it was translated into French a few years ago. So we've got French, Dutch, and Japanese out there, and at the moment it's being translated into Hungarian and Romanian.
Wow, incredible.
So that's this year, yeah. So more people are kind of wanting to share that out into different languages. So, which is is just so heartwarming and wonderful, and it's great that it's still out there and people wanting to share. So in different languages. So
I imagine it's going to have a very long life beyond yours, even. So, yeah.
well, yes, I suppose so. By the way, I'm not planning on going anywhere just yet.
For sure. Yes, exactly. Just to let everyone
Yeah.
in the algorithms know that Dawn's just happy to be here right now.
Very happy. Very happy.
Yeah.
Got lots going on, and all sorts of exciting things. So yes, no, I'm around. I'm
There you go.
staying around.
There you go. And Elisa.
Well, like you, the big C didn't take me out. So hey,
Exactly. You won a war on that front. That's amazing. And Elisa's saying you're the picture of health, and more so in person. So Elisa and I and Don met in person there at Confluence, and it's just so different. Maybe we could end by talking about this a little bit. That seeing you in the flesh, and then I know I told people on the podcast already, but I'm going to repeat that there was we had some beautiful meetings and so many good experiences, and then on the way out I start to weep and cry. Oh, I didn't get a picture with Dawn. How could I see her and then not do that? And then literally just texting, and I think we were on the group, and then I hear this voice, shall we do it now?
Because you'd posted, or we didn't, and for whatever reason you stated where you were, which terminal you were at the airport,
Right.
and I was on the other side. I mean, it's a small building, so I was like, you were at B3, I was at B2. I was like, you're over there, and my flight's not going just yet. So I just thought, okay, that was just incredible. And the fact that you'd put where you were in the terminal, otherwise, I would not have known. So it was meant to be. But I mean, that was just so beautiful when you said, oh, we didn't get a selfie. Go, okay, let's have one now. It's so amazing.
It really was
wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I don't squeal for a lot of things, but that definitely got the squeal out of me. It was just such a delight. Of course, beautiful to see you. Of course, beautiful to have a picture with you. But it's the organic nature of how that happened. And it was literally someone else was saying, "Oh, I'm in this terminal. If you're there, let me know." So I said, "Oh, we're at this gate." That's how you would have seen that. And it's just like you can't plan and engineer those things.
No.
Right?
No.
There's no way.
No. And then again, I think, talking to people who are open to these things, more and more synchronicities of those kinds of things are happening. And, it's just amazing. And being open to what presents itself in life, which is not quite the, you create, creating our own reality, if you like, being open to what's possible and not limiting it by what we can think, because I know a lot of people kind of follow that, create your own reality. And at the same time, I think it's doesn't quite give our experiences the fullness, because if we're open, then all sorts of wonderful things could happen. Like you telling me what terminal you're at, and I'm literally half a dozen steps away.
Yeah, amazing. It was so good.
I mean, as you said, we couldn't have like, oh, I'm going to do this, let's do this. It just, this is wonderful. So yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah,
and an amazing event, really wonderful with all those people. So yes, there'll be, I think, hopefully they'll be booking planning, what the dates are for next year. Not yet, but I think they'll be coming out soon. So.
Well, I will definitely be there, and I encourage everyone to be there, and so I'll get to see you again.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know about my son. We'll see. Might have to leave him at home this time, but or we'll go to Texas and we'll stay there for 6 weeks through this weird weather that we get in the spring.
Oh yes, that's a good idea.
Stay in Texas. You can have me. I'm done. So Dawn may also have magical powers. So Lisa said that is a possibility. I felt it. Yeah, so much more capacity than we are even remotely aware of. So thank you so much, Dawn, for joining me. This has been a total pleasure. I knew I was going to enjoy it very much. And
I have too. Thank you. It's been lovely.
You're welcome. And you can catch this on Spotify and iTunes slightly after. It usually takes my assistant a day or so to upload them to the podcast channels, and help us share this out if you don't mind, because then that helps me get out of the algorithmic hell that I'm in a little bit. And you try not to be depressed about that. Some days, like, you come off what it feels to be the best interview ever, and then YouTube goes, oh yeah, there was, there's only 12 views. It's like, no, there were 16 people on the thing. There's more than that going on here, but whatever. Like, just have to start having, as Micah Ellers would say, the faith of consciousness, that whatever is meant to grow organically will get its chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love you guys and everyone in the chat that came. And I love you, Don. And I look forward to talking to you Monday as well. I think the next time I'm going to see you on this channel would be Friday again for Beth of Fresh Air. I'm going to do an episode on synergy. That's my new little idea I'm working on, what that actually is when people come together and instead of get into conflict, they synergize and they start to, okay, what can we learn from each other would be my ideal. And I will play you guys out with a song of mine that I've added to the Beth of Fresh Air. And thank you so much again, Dawn. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
You are welcome. All right. Bye for now, everyone.
Oh, my true guide, Lord and supporter of all, forever free from identity. Feel well, I'm dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Vipadrashta Manta Shibarita Gupta Maheshwara Paramatme Dijapi Yokto Deyasmin Purusha Bara Deyasmin Purusha Bara Deyasmin Purusha